Hello and welcome to another mothership maintenance blog. On the Amel Super Marimus, the engines face backwards and the transmission goes through a kind of C-drive mechanism with a propeller mounted in the keel housing. And the engines are usually Volvo Penta TMD 22s, which are basically a British-made Perkins Prima with a Volvo badge stuck on it. They're normally reliable and robust, but like any engines, they've got their known issues. For the past couple of years we've had a slow leak into the bilge, losing about 750 millilitres every 100 hours. Under normal circumstances that's not a problem, you can just keep topping it up, which is what most Volvo owners do. Actually, I had it diagnosed from a friend in Malta, Jack, who's an engineer there, and he did some work on our turbo and elbow when we were there. Really good engineer, I can highly recommend him if you're in there. I took some pictures and described this situation. He said it's more than likely, or he's 90% sure, it was the crankshaft seal inside the bell housing, which is really difficult to get to. But it's quite an easy swap out if you can get in there. As keen as I am to do most of the boat maintenance myself, that particular job I just felt was above my pay grade, really. So it just so happened we were in Mallorca, and I'd been talking to a couple of other Amel owners who had some work done there by a German engineer called Peter Kukloc. And so I called him and he said, yeah, we've got some availability, bring it in and we'll take a look. So we went to Porto Christo on the west side of Mallorca to meet up with Peter. What's his lines there?
Can I come down and have a look?
Sure. Feel around the bell housing, then I can feel the oil. Yeah, just around the joint.
In between
the joint.
Yes.
Hi there, my name is Peter. I am the manager of Yacht Concept Mallorca. We are working here since 22 years on the island, attending a lot to Amel yachts. Our engineer Torsten is quite experienced on engines. Most Amel Super Marimus, they are equipped with a TMD 22 Volvo engine, or with a very similar Perkins engine, the T80.
So not all mechanics that we met in the Mediterranean are willing to be filmed or even speak English. So I was particularly grateful to Torsten for letting me film it all and ask loads of awkward questions and basically help out.
And they open it up and put it. Can't get your hands in, or for whatever reason.
So as the transmission had to be decoupled to get to the ring, there was another couple of jobs we could do while it was apart. And one of those jobs was replacing the Vetus coupling bushings in the Vetus coupling transmission. We also had all of the belts and the pulleys and even the water pump changed as well, but that was in a different maintenance blog. So first we had to remove the prop shaft generator. So to decouple it, we had to separate it from the gearbox, and the gearbox is joined to the engine by a Vetus coupling, and in that coupling there are some rubber bushes which kind of dampen the effect of the shaft sort of changing direction quickly, and it also allows for a little bit of vibration.
But there's no problem, it's not a big deal.
So we dismantled some of the cradle at the back, disconnected it and moved it all back, took the bushings out, but we found quite a lot of things connected to the flywheel housing. So there's a lot of stuff connected to the flywheel housing. There's the engine mounts there, and the starter motor connected to the flywheel housing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. And the electric box up here. So it's been a little bit more tricky than we anticipated, and obviously a lot of stuff hasn't been taken off for about 20 years, so it's very stiff. We took the gearbox off, and on the side of the gearbox was the oil cooler. It's just basically a box just stuck on the side of the gearbox. You said that's the oil cooler for the gearbox?
Yes, I think so, yes.
But there's a lot of corrosion on that, and by the time I cleaned it up with some aqua filter, it was actually the calcium that was basically blocking the holes in that. So we've got the Vetus coupling bushings there, which you can see the ones that came off They're not terrible, but it's probably about time they were changed. So luckily I ordered some from the UK, and they were only about £11, I think they were. We got the gearbox off, so I'm going to give the gearbox a clean up and also check the oil cooler. The transmission cooler unit is bolted onto the side of the Hearth gearbox, and what happens is the cooling salt water is pulled through it to cool down the gearbox. Well, that's really weird. I expected to find some pipes in there from the oil, but there's nothing there. It's just an empty box, although it's really calcified, so I'll get some aquafilter on that and give that a clean. But yeah, that's it. There's nothing in it, so I'm going to try and get rid of this calcium here with some aquafilter, my favourite chemical. This is hydrochloric acid. So this is the oil cooler, and that's the oil cooler cap, and you can see the corrosion on there is quite bad. In fact, that needs replacing because it creates a hole when it's put together. So that fits on there, and I guess the cooling effect of the water going through there cools the gearbox housing, although it seems a very low-tech solution. So that's needs replacing because it's all corroded around the edges. But apart from that, I think we're making good progress. Then once we've done that, we're going to obviously move the engine back, and then we're going to service all of the belts and the pulleys. Well, in fact, we're going to replace all of the belts and the pulleys as part of a 2,000 hour service at the back or the front of the engine in this case. So that's it. We're kind of halfway through the job, I'm hoping. I think one lesson that I've learned from the few times that we have got a mechanic on board is it's best to order the parts yourself before the work starts, because most mechanics will go to a dedicated Volvo dealer and buy the dedicated Volvo parts. You don't have to do that. There are plenty of alternatives and cheaper alternatives available which are just as good. So check out the link from our friends on SV and Pavidus who've done a short video about sourcing alternative parts, and they're even putting together a spreadsheet for people to download with Volvo engines.
If you buy genuine parts like these lip seals for your water pump, if you buy them from Volvo, you'll pay this amount, €23.13. If you buy them here, you'll pay £3.65. They're exactly the same part by the same manufacturer, and a massive saving.
So then we tackled the flywheel itself with Torsten explaining the parts as he was pulling them off.
Holding the damper here with these 5 screws, and the inner pieces go into the gearbox. When you go in gear, then it takes a bit of these...
It takes the energy out. So as the engine mounts were actually connected to the flywheel housing, we had to prop the engine up on wooden chocks. You can see the holes for the engine mounts there. And finally we got to the flywheel and the crankshaft seal ring, which was in fact leaking into the flywheel housing.
Seems to be the seal ring here.
The crankshaft seal then, it is leaking. Okay.
Looking normal.
So after replacing it with the new one, it was just a matter of putting everything back, hopefully in the right order. So we've got the gearbox back in place, and the flywheel and the housing and everything else. There's the starter motor and the relay box. Now we just need to put on the prop alternator, and we still got the oil cooler box. That's away getting a new plate made for the housing. But apart from that, there hasn't been too many nasty surprises. It's Friday tomorrow, but I don't think we're going to get time to finish everything, which unfortunately means, because we're in the marina and it's costing about €70 a night, we're going to have to pay for 2 extra days that we're not actually going to be doing anything. So if you've been following our blogs, you know that we rarely spend any time in marinas apart from winterization. So that's going to be quite a chunk out of our monthly budget. So not only have we got to pay the labour costs and all of the spare parts, but we've got to pay some extra mooring fees as well. So it's going to be a very expensive week, but at least we can come away from here knowing that the engine's had a very deep service, and we've replaced some things that have been kind of on the list for a long time. There's a lot of debate on the Amel forums about engine alignment after such jobs like this, but we felt that the risk of actually taking the Vetus coupling housing off and realigning it all, there was a risk that we would damage the actual housing, and because we hadn't changed the engine mounts and the fact that the bushings didn't show any sign of misalignment, we thought we'd just put everything back as we'd found it. And finally, we've got the cooling unit back with a new aluminium plate. And that was it, job done. It was more expensive than we thought, and it took longer than we thought, but that's boat jobs for you.
Is it looking good?
Yeah, we just run the engine and everything seems to be going fine. I think we're just about done. So in the next maintenance blog, I'll be showing how we replaced all of the belts, the pulleys and the water pump. So thanks for watching. Thanks in particular to our patrons who make these videos possible. If you found this useful or it saved you a few pennies, why not buy me a beer or a coffee by following the links in the description below to our Patreon page.